Welcome back to another episode of War in Cali. In this episode, I will detail the story of how an innocent man received life in prison. Just before 11:30 p.m. on December 18th, 1993, a 17-year-old named Albert was shot at least 3 times near the driveway of his home in East LA. He died early the next day at a nearby hospital. Because the shooting took place outside of the city of Los Angeles, officers from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department investigated the crime. They arrived a few minutes after receiving a 911 call. They found 6.380 caliber shell casings and bloodstains in the driveway. Monica, who was 17 years old, was a friend of Albert. She witnessed the shooting. She spoke with deputies that night and said there had been a single shooter, whom she believed to be a member of a rival gang. Monica also spoke that night with Albert's brother Vidal, who was at the hospital when doctors tried to save Albert's life. According to police reports, Monica told Vidal that the shooter wore a stocking over his head, as well as a sweater with a hood. She also was said to have told him a guy named Berto was the one who did the shooting, because he had a problem with Albert and Vidal. Vidal relayed his conversation with Monica to sheriff deputies. He stated he was uncertain about the details, but he knew the guy was nicknamed Berto, and he was 19 years old, and his real name was Humberto Duran. Vidal said the shooting may have been a retaliation for a shooting 2 years earlier, when a young man named Hector was killed outside of Garfield High School. Deputies ran Berto's name through a state database, which showed arrests for drug possession and burglary. On December 21st, 1993, sergeants and detectives interviewed Monica. They spoke with her for around 90 minutes before recording a 40-minute convo. In a recorded statement, Monica said it was a single shooter, a young thin Hispanic man, around 5'8" to 5'10". She also stated he was wearing a blue hoodie and had a stocking over his face, but she said she could see that he had a thin mustache. Later, detectives showed Monica a mugshot of Berto. After the interview ended, detectives discussed the case with deputies, telling them Berto was still a suspect. A deputy was close to Monica's family. He even interviewed her in the presence of 7 family members. He took no notes and didn't record the conversation. In a later memo, he would state it was during this conversation that Monica first implicated that Berto was the shooter. After the family gathering broke up, the deputy and Monica returned to the sheriff's office in East LA, where she was re-interviewed. A few hours later, at 1:15 a.m. on December 22nd, Monica returned again to her interview room, where she now said she told deputies the truth, except towards the ending. She said that Berto had been in the back of the Cadillac, but she'd been too afraid to name him. She said that the first shooter had shot Albert 4 times, but Berto had gotten out the car and tried to shoot her. A week later, she identified Berto from a photo lineup. On the same day, December 22nd, 1993, deputies arrested a man named Edward. He was a member of a gang called the Rascals, a gang in East LA. Many alleged that Berto was from the same gang. Police found a gun on Edward's waistband. Edward told the deputies 2 accounts of how he got the gun. He said either someone had given him the gun or he found it in a paper bag on the ground. Edward was initially charged with unlawful possession of a weapon. After a forensics firearm examiner said rounds from the gun were consistent with Albert's murder, Edward was later charged for Albert's murder. On December 26, 1993, Berto and his friend Charles went to Monica's neighborhood after hearing rumors that Monica was telling people that Berto shot somebody. Berto spoke with Monica's stepfather Wesley, who said she was not at home. Berto gave Wesley a note with his name and number and asked that Monica contact him. Wesley then called police. They later arrested Berto that day and charged him with witness intimidation. After his arrest on December 27, Berto gave a statement to deputies. He said he believed that Monica's actions of spreading rumors about him could be dangerous for him and might interfere with his plans to attend college and join the Marines. Berto also told officers he had briefly dated Monica a year earlier, but they had broken up, based in part on Monica being a hoe. Berto told police he was worried about being set up for a crime he didn't do. He denied belonging to the Rascals, a gang based in his neighborhood, and also a gang called the Stoners. Berto said he used to belong to a group called Chaos, but they were just a party crew, nothing serious. Berto's record showed no indication that he was in a gang, and he didn't have any tattoos that indicated gang membership. Despite this lack of evidence, police still listed him as a gang member. Detectives interviewed Edward on December 27th, and he admitted to being a Rascals gang member, but he denied that Berto was a member of the Rascals and said he didn't even know him. 2 days later, on December 29th, a young man named Peter told detectives that a Rascals gang member named David had confessed to shooting Albert. In a recorded statement, Peter said that when David made his confession, he was wearing a thermal shirt and a hoodie, which was consistent with Monica's description of the shooter. Peter also said that David told him he had killed Albert to avenge Hector's death. Peter, who was facing a robbery charge, said he was a founding member of the Rascals. In a recorded interview, Peter also said he met Berto the first time that morning when they were both in court, and said that Berto was not a member of the Rascals. The sheriff's report said the opposite, and said that Peter called Berto his homie and said he was a part of the Rascals, which wasn't true. Berto was officially arrested on January 6, 1994, and he was charged with first-degree murder of Albert. Sheriff's investigators interviewed David on January 12, 1994, and told him about Peter's statement. David denied involvement with the murder. The investigators then re-interviewed Peter. Now he said he didn't know David. Berto's friend Charles went to the sheriff's office on January 18, 1994 to give an alibi for Berto. He said that Berto was not in the gang, and he described their activities on the night of December 18th, which included hanging out at a friend's house, going to Taco Bell, then leaving after 1 a.m. Charles said he walked Berto home, in part because Berto believed that a sheriff's deputy was harassing him, and his public defender had told him not to be out on the streets. Charles' statements was recorded, but they did not make the formal police report. Charles later said that officers beat him and threatened to throw him in jail if he remained in East LA. Charles left California, and he did not testify in Berto's case. Berto and Edward had their arraignment on May 12, 1994. Berto would later say that this was the first time he met Edward. District Attorney Adam London represented the state in the arraignment. Adam had previously prosecuted Berto's brother Javier in an unrelated murder case. Javier was later acquitted. Adam London would be disbarred in 2011 for ethics violations. During the arraignment, deputies testified that Monica had first implicated Berto in her initial interview on December 21, 1993, but Monica had only said Berto could have been in the Cadillac. She said she didn't actually see him. Monica failed to show up to court on the first day. She was brought in under a warrant. Her first testimony changed from her initial accounts to the investigators. Now the second person came from the passenger seat, and she said the man wore a nylon stocking, but she could not see his head, but she could see that it was shaved. Berto's head was not shaved at the time. Monica also testified that Berto had his own gun and shot Albert in the leg, then pointed the gun at her and pulled the trigger, but the gun did not fire. She also said that Berto told her, "Don't tell, because I know who you are." Monica said she knew Berto, but never had dated him or even had sex with him. She testified that first Berto was only a member of a party crew, but then testified he was affiliated with the Rascals. She also said she knew Berto and had seen him with Edward hanging out together. Albert's brother Vidal said that his sister had quickly mentioned Berto as a person who might be involved in the shooting. He said that he and Berto had an altercation 2 years prior to the shooting because they were in a rival party crew. He said he never saw Berto in the neighborhood or associating with the Rascal gang. Monica's stepfather Wesley testified that Berto approached his house on December 26, 1993. He said that Monica was inside the house when Berto showed up, but later testified she said that Berto was the guy that was in the shooting. According to Wesley, Berto said Monica's been saying some things that ain't cool, and I came by here to straighten them out. He said that Berto did not make any threats. Deputies testified that Monica placed Berto in the back of the Cadillac in her first interview, but after reviewing his report, which did not include this information, he said this was wrong, and said that Monica was pretty much guessing through her interview. During cross-examination, prosecutors asked detectives whether Berto had any gang ties. They said they believed that Berto might belong to the Rascals, Stoners, or even the Chaos gangs. The judge called sidebar and objected to the questioning, as it was introducing hearsay evidence. Prosecutors only called one witness to the stand, being a woman named Yvette, a friend of Monica, and an acquaintance of Berto. Yvette said that Monica and Berto had dated in the past, which Monica got on the stand and said they didn't. Yvette testified that Monica said she was pregnant by Berto, which later she terminated the pregnancy. Yvette also testified that she knew Berto was a member of the Chaos Party crew, but he wasn't a member of the Rascals. A witness called by David's attorney also testified that Monica had told her about dating Berto and becoming pregnant and having an abortion in the summer of '93. In closing arguments, the judge misstated some of the evidence in his case. She stated that Monica had never said there were two guns. The prosecutor said Monica testified consistently, but also that her inconsistencies were based on fear and actual evidence of her credibility. If Monica was like a machine and spit out identical information every time she spoke, that would kind of raise an eyebrow, the prosecutor said. The jury convicted David and Berto on all charges on December 15, 1994. Both received life. Berto appealed his conviction, but was later denied. Prison was hell for Berto. He faced riots and death on countless of occasions. After spending his whole adult life behind bars, by 2010, Berto had finally lost hope. Since entering California prison, he'd been shot, stabbed, and beaten. He even had to get a permanent catheter and develop a seizure disorder and began using a wheelchair. In 2011, Monica recanted her testimony to Berto's cousin. A year later, she recanted to his sister. She would later write, "I told them that I wanted to tell the truth about Berto not being involved in Albert's murder. I really wanted to, and tried to come forward and do the right thing, but I just couldn't." In 2017, according to the Los Angeles Times, Berto contacted a law school for a project called Innocent, ran by a woman named Megan Baca, who was an investigator with the project. She reached out to Monica on Facebook, and the two women began talking about the case. Eventually, Monica went public with her recantment. In a 15-page affidavit dated on March 8, 2021, Monica wrote, "I know Berto was innocent. I didn't tell the truth when I testified at his trial and said that he was involved in Albert's killing. My role is sending an innocent man to prison, and it has hunted me for 27 years. Monica said that two men shot Albert and that one of the men did mention the name Berto, and she knew a lot of men with that name, but it wasn't Berto who did the shooting. She stated, "I recognized the second shooter for being around the projects." She said, "I heard rumors that he was high, and he was a high-ranking member and dangerous and very active." Monica said that the sheriff's detectives pressured her to place Berto at the scene, didn't name him as the second shooter. She said they threatened to place her in jail if she didn't. Monica said she finally cooperated because she was exhausted and scared of the second shooter. In an affidavit, Monica said that the recorded interview was incomplete and that detectives had stopped and started the machine over and over, and while they yelled and treated her aggressively. Monica also said she did not believe that Berto tried to intimidate her when he stopped by her house. She said she watched from the window as Berto talked to her stepfather. Monica stated, "I really wanted to go outside and talk to him and tell him what was going on." Monica said, "I have always thought if I would have had the chance to speak to him that day, it wouldn't have turned out the way it did." Based in part of Monica's recantment, Berto was paroled from prison in January of 2023.
Duran was just 18 years old when he was sentenced to life in prison for a 1993 murder he did not commit.
I forget at times that I'm free, you know.
Duran was found factually innocent 4 months ago. This week, Duran filed a lawsuit against the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, alleging that investigators at the time coerced and pressured the then 17-year-old witness to the murder to say she saw Duran shoot the victim. That witness later recanted her testimony. The lawsuit also alleges investigators failed to properly investigate Duran's alibi, tampered with evidence, and failed to investigate other potential suspects. Duran says this cost him 30 years of his life.
A year later, on January 9th, 2024, Megan Baca and Ariana Price, both California innocent advocates, filed a state petition. The petition noted Monica's recantment but also stated that Berto's conviction was barred by poor investigation practices and official misconduct. On June 16th, 2025, the California Victim Compensation Board approved a compensation award of $1.4 million to Berto. On August 25th, 2025, Berto filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and several officers involved in his wrongful conviction. Berto was now trying to live his life the best way he could and enjoy his freedom. He was wrongfully convicted of a crime he didn't commit, forever changing his and his family lives. This goes to show you, is many men in jail innocent and who have faced these type of situations. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, check out my previous episodes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.